Have you ever gone to a reception or an event with a dance and just stepped back a bit and observed what went on the dance floor? I mean, you'll notice, of course, that no one dances the same way. Some people got a good sense of rhythm. That would be my musical gift. Some not so much. Some are limber and energetic. Some don't move very much. Some are carefree and dance with abandon, while others feel like very self-consciously, like, don't look at me. I kind of tend to fall into that category. In all those ways and others, the dance floor seems to be a bit of a microcosm of all of life. For example, just as on the dance floor, the tempo sometimes changes, so it does for us in the dance of life. Or at a reception, how there's sometimes people dancing with joy, and I see this more often at a wedding when there's been some heartache or death, or maybe it's just the pain of my child has grown up. There are others who dance with tears in their eyes. So too on the dance floor of life. And there are many similarities between what we observe on the dance floor and the dance of life. There is, however, this significant difference. While it is hard, even almost impossible, to coax some people out on the dance floor, if we are followers of Jesus, we can't sit it out. We got to get out into the dance of life and do our part. Two things about that in particular in light of this gospel today. One, we sometimes have to be willing to let ourselves be led. A good dancer will not only lead, but will respond to the moves of his or her partner and let themselves be led. Today, Jesus talks about the dance of the Pharisees. He doesn't use that metaphor, but he's speaking of these who were leaders in the ways of religion at his time. These were the leaders. And Jesus points out that clearly that they miss some of the key aspects of the dance of life. Oh, they were quite happy to lead. They were unwilling to be led. As a matter of fact, they pretty much ignored their dance partner altogether. Two, they did not make sure there was room on their dance floor for everyone. One of the things that Jesus always did, and which he counts on us to do. And three, the dance was really all about them. Look at me, their dance moves seemed to suggest. It was more of a strut. A true leader has to be willing to be led in life. I will not trust any church leader, coach, political leader, or leader of any type who does not have the humility to also let themselves be led. Otherwise, they don't really have what it takes to be a real leader. Jesus himself was a person who was led. He would take time in prayer to hear where God's trying to coach him. And he would let himself be influenced and impacted by the people he met along the way. First, in the dance of life, we have to be willing to let ourselves be led. And secondly, sometimes we have to be the one who is willing to lead. Now, my favorite leaders are usually those who did not particularly set out to be leaders, but they just saw the need and realized it was their turn to step forward and to do what was needed. The folks that seems too intent on being the leaders make me nervous. The young priest who just wanted to be a bishop from the very beginning, that kind of frightens me. Or those people who can't wait for a position of power, I think it could be dangerous. Again, my favorite leaders are those who just realized this was what was needed here in this situation or moment, and were willing to step forward. And at one point or another, or maybe many times, that will be each of us. That will be you. Now, a true leader would tell you it's not always fun to have that role. I mean, if you're a good leader, there are moments of meaning and beauty, and you see the difference you can make from the leadership role that you can't make otherwise. And you trust that ultimately it's worth it. And it's also true that, one, sometimes the responsibility is itself scary. Two, everyone will now see what you already know, that you are imperfect. And three, some will take unfair pot shots at you, to your face, or most likely behind your back, even saying things that aren't true, when you can't speak the truth to clear your own name because of what's confidential. There is a loneliness to the position of leadership, and yet it will sometimes be your turn. So may each of us listen for that inner music which tells us when it's our time to step forward to do what is needed. So there it is. In the great dance of life, whether we're leading mostly or following mostly, sometimes the tempo will change. Sometimes we'll dance with abandon. At other times we'll dance with tears in our eyes. And again, we always listen to that inner music because sometimes we're called to lead, other times to follow, and almost always it's a bit of both at the same time. So, next time you or I are at a dance, you might do well to step back just a bit and observe what goes on the dance floor and notice how many parallels there are to the dance of life. Except for this one. If we are followers of Jesus, we're not allowed to sit it out. We got to get out on the dance floor.